Welcome to Can I Park Here? Brought to you by FindAFashionTruck.com. Nashay and Estrell's mission is to inspire future and existing small business owners. They don't claim to be experts. They're simply trying to figure this all out, just like you.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Can I Park Here? I'm Nashay Snow, and I'm here with
Estrell Riles. Today we'll be speaking with two of the pioneers in the mobile retail industry. These two women have paved the way for several fashion trucks out there right now. Le Fashion Truck in LA, they started back in 2011 with their pink boutique on wheels, and they have been soaring ever since. Stacey and Jeanine have also ventured out into starting the AMRA, which is the American Mobile Retail Association. This is a whole new ball game, which lends services to existing mobile boutiques and future mobile boutique owners. So we'll get a lot of goodies from Stacey today, finding out about the fashion truck and the AMRA. So, you want to stay tuned for this.
Today, we're excited to have Stacey Jischke Steffi from Le Fashion Truck. Welcome, Stacey.
Thank you, ladies. Nice to be here.
Now, we're really excited to have you on because you're like one of the pioneers in the mobile retail business. So I can't wait to really delve into your story and really find out like how the business was when you first started and then how it is now. Before you started the truck, what was your story? What was your background?
Well, from my own story, and I'll tell you a little bit about Jeanine, my business partner as well. My background was actually in advertising. I worked in corporate America for about 10 years doing advertising. I worked in radio. I worked for both local and national radio stations. And in doing so, I worked actually with a lot of small business owners, which really attracted me to the small business model and encouraged me actually to go into business for myself. And my business partner, Jeanine, she is the fashionista of the two of us. She went to school. She got her bachelor's in fashion design and merchandising. She's worked for a designer. She's actually done some of her own designs herself. And she basically had the passion to open up a retail store. And when the two of us met, we were both in business for ourselves. I was selling vintage accessories, handbags, clothing, and Jeanine was specializing in her handmade jewelry line at the time, which was Dollhouse Republic, and another line called Alex and Vina. So that's what the two of us were doing before Le Fashion Truck was born.
So how long did you know her before you decided to hey, you know what? We should work together.
5 minutes, maybe 10 tops.
Really?
I did not know the girl at all. And I actually think that worked in our favor. We were not friends. We just knew each other from doing events side by side. That's how we met one another. I really liked her product. I really liked her as a person. And we just basically would tell each other about events. Hey, I'm doing this one. Are you going to be there? I'll see you there, kind of a thing. And the way that we went into business together was that Jeanine would use some of my vintage clothes and accessories for her photo shoots for her jewelry line. And one day she came over and I was just writing away like a mad woman in my journal about this idea I had for a store on wheels. And she's just kind of like, what are you working on over there? And I told her and she said, I want in. That's exactly what she said. I want in. And she always teases me about this, but I basically asked her to fill out a questionnaire about who she was. I asked her what her sign was to make sure we were compatible. And she probably thought, well, I know she thinks I'm a complete Looney Tune, but I didn't know her, and I was afraid to go into business with somebody that I didn't know, but turns out that I couldn't have picked a better business partner.
Yeah. And, I feel like it's little things like that make you compatible. It's like, do you jive together? Are you going to have fun having a conversation with them? So, because even Estrell and I going into business together, it kind of works because I don't mind having to talk to her every day.
Right. Exactly. And I found that with Jeanine and myself, her strengths are totally my weakness. And I'm just I don't even know that world. That is all you, and vice versa. So we really kind of have our duties within the companies that we own. And from there, it just kind of flows a little bit smoothly. I don't want to say smoothly because then I wouldn't be a fashion trucker. Nothing runs smoothly in the fashion truck world. But, having we're kind of like the yin and the yang in that sense, I guess you could say, for lack of better explanation.
Yeah, I think it works better that way. I think it's best to have polar opposites of each other, and because it's not going to work if you have two people that have the same exact background and the same characteristics, the same temperament. It's not going to work.
Absolutely, I agree.
Now, so how did you go from like sketching in your journal to starting a mobile retail business because I think I read on your site that you started, it was in 2009 or 11, maybe 11?
Well, we started the planning process in 2010, and within 4 months max, we had opened the truck, and we actually launched in January of 2011. So I think it was actually having a business partner that helped move it along faster. I have a lot of ideas. My brain's all over the place. I come up with 1,000,001 different ideas every day that, most of those are just ridiculous. But it was I think working with her and having that second person that really helped me to make it a reality. So once Jeanine decided she wanted in on it, and we decided, okay, we're going to try this together. It was just like so fast, the amount of time we actually wanted to launch during the holiday season of 2010, and finally was like, okay, that's just crazy. Like we can't push this that fast. So it was just like a boom, boom, boom. It was like, and we did a lot of stuff ourselves because there was no one to compare ourselves to. So we were like, I don't know. I guess this is what you would do. Sounds right to me. Jeanine sketched out the entire design, and the way that we came out with the idea of the pink truck and stuff like that was, she went in her corner, I went in mine. We looked for inspiration on our ideal boutique. Like, if we could have the most perfect ideal boutique, what would it be? And we put our stuff together and realized we kind of had this French theme going. And so we were like, okay. And Jeanine was the one that came up with the name. And so we were going over all these different names, and we're like, what about the fashion truck? No, we can't really make it that general. What about this and that? And I had cheesy names. I'm like, let's call it the local motion. And Janine's like, no, next. And so she's like, what about le fashion truck? And it just stuck, and it was fun. And it went with that whole pink. And, it was just one thing after another of finding somebody to do the build out for us. We went to Home Depot and bought all the stuff ourselves that we needed. We were self-funded, so we were working on a really tight budget. And I took the truck to get it painted. We put all the decals on ourselves. It took like a full day to do that. It was just nonstop from there, night and day. And Jeanine was actually working full time at, get this, MySpace of all places. So I know, right? And so she would basically work and try to squeeze stuff in during the day, and she would just work like a maniac all night. I get emails from her at 2, 3 in the morning, and we were just determined, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you believe in something, then it's like sleep isn't an option. You just
totally.
It's that hustle. It's like you had that hunger to
yeah,
make it work.
Shay just told me like I wasn't feeling good Sunday. Said entrepreneurs don't get to take a day off. No.
Well, actually, it's a proven fact that entrepreneurs need time off. They need time to rest so that their creative minds can keep working. I read that in an entrepreneur article. So I give you permission. Don't listen to her.
Right. I feel like I rest once I've achieved success.
But no, it's true. You're almost working on adrenaline at certain points. Right. You're just so pumped. You're so excited to get this moving. Your brain's just bursting with ideas. And I remember I didn't want to sleep. I'm like, who has time to eat? Sometimes I get annoyed because I have to stop to go to the bathroom. I'm like, really? Seriously? Can't I just go once a day? Like, you got to be kidding me. Right. So I know that feeling of just pure excitement of just wanting, like you say, to get that thing done. And then once you're done, you're like, okay, now I can have a little bit peace of mind.
Yeah. Like, let's take a breath. Now, I mean, since, of course, like food trucks probably were out then, but of course they're a different deal because there isn't anybody walking into their truck. So how did you guys find someone to really deck out the inside of the truck the way you wanted it?
We actually hired a family friend who had some carpentry skills, and we really lucked out, I'd say, in that regard. And we didn't have really anybody to buddy up with. We've always had a pretty collaborative mindset when it comes to being in business. So we were hopeful that there were more coming along, because at that time and still today, the food truck scene in LA is just booming. I mean, there was just trucks everywhere at every event. It was just insane. And we started actually befriending a lot of the food trucks, just kind of telling them what we were doing, what we were coming out with. We started to tease the moment we decided we were doing the truck. We started a whole like promotional tease online, social media, and everything else before Instagram even existed. And we basically pushed it that way. And yeah, we were lucky to find somebody who had the skills to do it. And we basically supplied him with all the wood and all the supplies, the sketch that Jeanine had come out with, and we're like, this is what we want.
Now, with the build out process, is since you guys didn't really have anybody to compare yourselves with and say, hey, do you have any suggestions on what to do? What do I need? Are there anything that you did that you regret doing for the interior? Like, I could have done that better?
Right. Oh, absolutely. I don't know if regret is the right word, but things I wish I would have done, definitely, especially seeing like what people are doing now. Looking back, I wish I would have allowed us a little bit more time. We were working on our own aggressive timeline, and I wish we would have taken just a couple of extra months just to flush out everything. And I definitely, we actually did a few different, we've done rehabbing to the truck since its initial build out. Not a whole lot. We actually have been working on doing an entire rebuild in the inside. Hopefully that will be by the end of the year. But when we first opened, we had this really beautiful enclosed glass jewelry case. And it actually worked against us for numerous reasons. One being that we had no way. We blocked ourselves between the driver's side and the retail side. So we had no way of going back and forth. So we'd have to like run outside of the truck, run back inside to go like to the other side of the counter, which was silly. And then that enclosed glass case, even though it didn't have expensive jewelry in it, it gave people the disillusion that items behind there were expensive, and nothing sold out of that. And when you're in a small space like that, every square inch counts. Every piece of that truck is money, as far as I'm concerned. And so after about 2 months, we were like, this isn't working. And we revised it so that there was no longer that glass case. And plus it's glass. Like, I mean, I know we have a mirror in the truck, but like it was scary, you know? It was like, imagine that thing shattering in a million pieces. And so so we've done a few changes here and there. And I think that's to be expected. You know, you have one idea when you do it, and then as your customers come in and you're watching them and you're watching the flow and what areas are making money, it's smart to revise that, I think, and make it really work in the way that your customers are utilizing it.
And I think it's interesting too that so you all still have the original truck.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
And so you're going on your 5th year. So that's kind of good to know too, that you were able to make a smart investment in your truck. And
I never said it was a smart investment in that truck. I never said that. I love our we call her Sammy, but she is a diva, to say the least. She works when she wants to. She doesn't when she doesn't feel like it. She breaks down in the most inopportune times imaginable. It's been a challenge, I'll admit. You know, I think it's super important that people buy a really reliable truck. Don't fall so in love with the exterior, which is what I think we did, as well as don't fall in love with something so unique and rare. I always tell people, like, the more unique and rare your truck, the more unique and rare those parts are that go along with it. So even though, because our truck only cost us about $3,000, but we easily put in $3,000 into the engine just to get her up and running to where we could drive it on the freeway and stuff like that. So really, we were probably better off spending $8,000 on a truck that we didn't have to put a penny into. And that was just in the beginning. And then, there's been, I think I've rewired that entire truck at this point. It has almost new everything. It's been insane, but we love that truck. We just love it. She hates us, but we love her.
Where did you get the truck from?
We found it on Craigslist. I think at that time too, these trucks weren't so in demand, so they were actually a little bit easier to find. But we did play around with a few different options. I actually got really hooked on this RV that we found that was like 1,000,000 feet long, and Jeanine's Jeanine's a practical one. So I'm the one that's up in the clouds, and she's the one that puts reality in my face and bursts the bubble and goes, "Okay, fine." So I had this like 26-foot or something even longer. It was an RV, and I loved it because it had like a bathroom and things like that. And it just had a lot of space, but it was just not feasible because we're the drivers. And Jeanine's like, "I'm not going to drive that. Are you going to drive it?" And I was like, "No, you're going to drive it." So we're like, "Okay, well, that's not going to happen." So we found it on Craigslist, and it was actually used as an advertising vehicle. There's this company out here called West Side Rentals, and their slogan is "Why own when you can rent?" And they're all about renting out apartments. And so our truck used to just be used for an advertising vehicle. The guy would park it on the side of the road with all of its tacky logos and such, and then he used it for storage as well. And so that's how we found it. And we named it Sammy after the previous owner, because he didn't want to let her go. You could tell. We were like, hand over the keys, like, give us the truck. We gave you your money. And so in his honor, we named it after him.
Oh, that's cute.
I know this is super random, but you mentioned that the RV had a bathroom. Like, I don't know how I would feel having the truck with a bathroom, because then the customers would want to use it, and then I don't know if that would go down well.
Right. No, that's a really great point. But it is also very challenging, especially when you're doing, like, if you're selling on the public streets, it can be challenging at times, to not have that luxury, as I call it.
Yeah.
And the thing too is they don't have to know it's a bathroom. It's not like you're going to put like a little woman sign on the door. It could just be a door and they don't know where it leads to.
Right. It's the portal to the Twilight Zone. Don't go through there. Exactly. You'll never come back.
Right. I guess. Well, yeah. But then also too, depending on the size of the vehicle, like, it's like, I guess, a trade-off. Oh, yeah, well, I have the convenience of a bathroom, but then that's also space taking away from, products,
right,
where product can be placed.
I think that, as well as the maintenance that comes with something like that, the having to clean that out and all that stuff I wouldn't want to have that job.
Yeah, and that's an extra expense too, right?
Right.
I think you have to pay someone probably to do the whatever it is to clean it out. Yeah, that's
right.
Kind of gross. So what type of items do you sell in your truck? So what style are they? Is it, you said like jewelry, like, for example, I know some people are kind of boho chic, others are more conservative, others have more of a modern feel. What kind of style would you say like your clothing and jewelry is?
I'd say that we have a vintage inspired look. We are huge fans of vintage. And when we originally opened La Fashion Truck, it was all vintage clothing, all vintage accessories and handbags, and then Jeanine's handmade jewelry. So it was basically our two companies put into that store. Then through time, we opened it up as we heard feedback from people, and they loved the vintage, but they were also looking for new items. And so as we started buying and we were doing, new clothes, we kept going towards this kind of vintage look. The brands that we carry are very vintage inspired. And through the time, I'd say that we've also evolved from there. Now we've evolved a couple times now to where we are still following along in that original lines of vintage and vintage inspired, but also keeping up with the trends at the same time. We're not super trendy. There's way, like, if you want on trend, on point, like right now, like I wouldn't say that, you know, we're like the most trendy, because we're not, but our clothes have that vintage inspired feel with following the trends, if that makes any sense. And then we also still do carry vintage clothing. It's not as large of a quantity as it used to be, but it's still there. And that as well, now we try to focus on the trends. So it's like, we'll carry vintage, but it has to be that boho feel right now, you know, is what we're going for. So that, I would say that's kind of our style, and where we source our items is we try to work with as many local and emerging brands as possible. When I mean local, I don't mean just specific to LA. I guess I should say more like made in America. All of our jewelry is handmade. About 80% of our clothing is from different designers that are making their stuff either in LA or at, you know, in their city, in our country. And then whatever else we don't have, we get from showrooms in downtown.
Now, throughout your journey, what are some lessons that you've learned with starting the whole truck and just dealing with the renovation process and marketing, all of that? What's the lessons?
Yeah, and I'm thinking even like the city, like the government, like when you first started, that was huge. So new. Yeah.
That's probably huge. I've learned a lot in that sector for sure, especially through having the association. But lessons I've learned so many. I stopped keeping count. Let me think here. I would say that it's definitely important to keep up with social media. The different social media that's coming out. Like, for instance, Instagram. It didn't exist when we first started. And I remember stumbling upon Instagram when I was looking at that in the App Store. And I'm like, oh, this sounds kind of cool to do photo filters for my own pictures. And then eventually it just turned into this huge, you know, it's taken everything else out. So definitely staying on point with that, and you know, knowing your demographics and all those different social media platforms is really important. When it comes to the marketing side of things, I think it's super important to always have marketing material on you. I tell our consulting clients that, like, I have business cards with me at like my cousin's wedding. And let me tell you, I pass them out. Like, you know, I'm always willing and dealing, always. And so, you know, and those certain times, those 1 to 2 times that I didn't have something on me is when I needed it the most. So I would say always kind of being prepared to market yourself at any point in time. Is a lesson that I have learned. I've learned to be flexible. I think that's really important in the mobile retail business. Not nothing, but things won't go the way you planned, and that's okay. And I think that we get so dead set, us retailers, on, no, I want it to be this way. But nature or whoever else says it can't be that way. So the sooner you are to give up that fight and go with it, or go with the change, or go, you know, with the current, even though you're resisting it, it's going to work out better to your advantage. And I say that because I've been going to this huge event that I paid lots of money to be at, and my truck breaks down and I never make it. And then the promoter probably thinks I'm lying that my truck broke down. You know, so there's always this unforeseen that's going to happen, and being prepared for that, and being resourceful, jumping back on your feet. Okay, well, you can cry about it tonight, but right now, what's your solution? You know, and there's no tears in business, no crying, only behind closed doors. So I would say that's another lesson that I learned, is not being so dead set on the way I want something. An example of that would be when we first opened the truck. Before we even opened the truck, this was our vision. We're going to just drive all around Los Angeles, and you could find us anywhere on the streets. Like, one day we'll be in the valley, the next day we're going to be at the beach, and then the next day we'll be in downtown. And like, we're always going to be somewhere, and you can always find the truck. Well, the day that we were opening and we were going to just roll up into downtown during an art walk, we found out that we couldn't do that it was against the law. And we found that out the day we were going to go open. We found this out like 3 hours prior. Thankfully, there was a food truck lot and they were super accommodating. They allowed us to come in. They gave us a wonderful space so we were able to have our kind of grand opening. And, but it took me a long time to accept that I couldn't just go on the streets in Los Angeles. I really resisted that for a long time. And I wasn't willing to look past that option. You know, oh, okay, well, I could do office shopping. I can go to people's homes and do private parties. It just didn't fall along the lines of what I had envisioned. But once I finally let that go and was like, okay, fine, it's not going to be how it goes down. When I finally did that, I realized I made more money not being on the streets anyway. So it didn't really even matter. Like, so it was like, oh, it actually worked in my favor. So I tell people that a lot of times if you're resisting, the universe is doing that for a reason. You're not supposed to do it that way because there's something better. And the second you stop fighting it, that better thing's going to come your way and it's all going to make sense. So being flexible, huge lesson. Yeah, I'd say those are my lessons. I had a lot of background experience in marketing and advertising, so I felt pretty comfortable in that realm myself. I felt very comfortable writing press releases, reaching out to different, different outlets, different press outlets. I felt really comfortable. That was my nature. That was all I kind of knew. So that wasn't too uncomfortable for me.
And I feel like you guys get a lot of press too. So I feel like you're really good at putting yourself out there. You have a lot of followers too.
I think that we branded ourselves in such a way that just kind of was attractive to the press. We were two young entrepreneurs. We were females. We were self-funded. We kind of, had opened up this unique business model. And I think that it just kind of was the timing had a lot to do with it. The timing of being one of the first trucks around that the press noticed, I think that worked a lot in our advantage. And I think that has a lot to do with why we got the kind of press that we did. And we're very grateful for that. I'm super grateful for that. It's above and beyond what I ever imagined. Quite honestly, I was doing this truck out of convenience for myself. I had no idea that it was going to, inspire other people to go into this business model. I had no idea that the press would care about it. Like I just didn't, that wasn't the vision. That happened super organically. And that's awesome. And I'm super grateful that did happen.
Oh, well, that's a great segue into the fact that, I have to tell the audience that clearly this lady is super busy because she not only has the truck, but her and Jeanine are also the creators of the American Mobile Retail Association. So, and then you guys provide tons of services for existing mobile boutiques and future mobile boutique owners. How did you do with that?
So the association actually originally was just a really small Los Angeles-based association. We ran into a lot of roadblocks when we first opened. People didn't want to let us do their events because they didn't understand what we were and they didn't know what to do with us. And then they started treating us like food trucks and charging us several $100s to vent at these different events. And we're like, we're not slanging, $7 tacos with a line out the door. Like, how can we even compete with that? Like, there's no way. And so we actually tried joining an association for food trucks in LA, and they told us no. And we were like, what? We'll just create our own association. And it was actually this joke. And then we were like, wait a minute. So as there became a couple more trucks opened about 6 months after we did. And one day we're driving down the street and saw them, and we were like, oh my God, friends. So we pulled over and we were just like, do you suffer from the same plights that we suffer from? And they're like, we do.
Did you really say that?
Well, not those exact words, but we definitely, went in and introduced ourselves. And we were super excited to see other retail trucks because we figured that the more of them there were, the more of us there are, the more longevity all of our businesses have. And it makes it not a trend, but an actual business model. A lot of times people I'll talk to somebody to do a press interview and they're like, what do you have to say about this trend? I'm like, it's not a trend. Like, trends come and go. This is here to stay. So anyways, with the association, so we started as just an LA chapter. There was 5 of us, including my truck, and we would just meet all the time, and we banded together, and we would negotiate better rates for all of our trucks to be at events. Then we started creating our own events that we had a really great time doing, and from there, then we heard from, I think it was Christina with Top Shelf. One day she like hit up the fashion truck and was like, dude, I love what you guys are doing. I want to do this myself. Like, can I come shadow you? So she came and hang out with us for like 3 days. And then we were like, well, why don't you join the association? And we'll just have like a San Francisco chapter. And then we heard from Rosie up at Closet Space up in Seattle. She's like, hey, that's really cool. I have this too. And so we're like, well, we'll just open up a Seattle chapter. And then the East Coast trucks were like, do this here. And so it was a scary move to go national. You know, you're running an association. You're held very responsible. You're constantly under the spotlight. Like somebody probably out there hates me right now. Somebody's always mad at me. Somebody's always happy with me. You know, it's just, it goes with the territory, but our intentions are good and they're pure. And it's to grow this business model, and it's to bring validity to the business model, and to show that we're not just these traveling gypsies that don't have business licenses or don't pay our sales taxes. It's actually to prove quite opposite. And it's also to just basically give us our constitutional right to be small business owners, is really what we strive to do through the association. And so that's kind of how it got started. And then the consulting came after the fact. The consulting came really from, we would get asked several times a day by aspiring fashion truck owners and retail truck owners for help. And how'd you do this? How'd you do that? I sat down and had coffee with tons of people. I had free lunches. I did all those things, but it was taking a lot of time away from my own company. And I felt that the best way that I could help these people was by offering them consulting services, because that way I could give them my undivided attention. I could give them that one-on-one experience that they were asking me for. I could actually focus specifically on their company and not just regurgitate all the basics, but actually go, okay, what's your goal? What do you want to do? What's your specialty? Okay, this is how I would do it. And a lot of people came to us for help for how to market their company, how to do their branding. A lot of people that go into this business are very new to retail. They have no previous retail experience, me included, and it's a learning curve. And so we wanted to help people, and at the same time, we couldn't let our own business slip to the side. So it was kind of just natural for the consulting side to come about, and it was actually really well received. We've had the consulting side of the association for, I want to say, going on 3 years, and we've consulted over 500 people, not just in the U.S., but in Europe, Australia, Canada. So, and it's really awesome when you see them open up. I'd say that there's a huge majority of trucks that we've consulted with that have gone on to open their own mobile boutiques and be extremely successful. And then, we were, so it started with just Jeanine and myself with our webinar, our How to Launch Your Mobile Retail Business webinar. And from there, we just started adding more consultants. We've got Emily with the fashion truck who does like the 102, which is how to operate, because she comes with really fantastic retail experience and she has success in running both a brick and mortar and a store on wheels. We got Jessie, and she's fantastic in her buying skills, and she's done a great job at branding herself in New York City. And so we just kind of open it up, and so all of our consultants we all specialize in this one area, that so it's kind of a healthy group of consultants that you can work with. And I have to admit, that's probably one of the things that I enjoy the most about what I do is working with other people. It's super fun. It's really rewarding. You make these relationships with people that you would have never even known, or it's just it's a wonderful experience, and I really enjoy that aspect the most. And I'm very hands-on with the association, probably more so at this point than I'm even on with the truck itself.
Yeah, and I wonder if you run into this or not, because this is kind of what we're grappling with, because with our consulting, we're primarily sticking to like branding, because that's like our bread and butter. But the thing is, it's like, you mentioned it earlier, like balancing it with the fashion truck. So are you guys thinking of doing like some online courses too, where you are a little bit hands off? So, half your time isn't
right.
like doing consulting. Like, how are you balancing that?
Definitely. We've talked about different ways of offering our services. So like you say, it doesn't always have to be this live thing that we're doing, especially with the webinars. I think that's a little bit easier to do. And then also that will allow us to take the price point down on them. I do think though, at the same time, people really enjoy that experience of being live, because we do like a Q&A session afterwards, and people can ask away a million different questions, and they're all on the same platform with all these other potential mobile boutique owners. So I would definitely want to, the live services that we offer will always be there, but yes, definitely offering something in conjunction to that at a lower price point is definitely on the radar.
Because I could just imagine it gets tricky, because with like the fashion truck, it's not passive income. So you actually have to, be out there every weekend at the different events, so
yeah. And there's always something you're buying, you're out, you're buying, you're steaming, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're tagging, the truck itself. Yeah. Is a lot more hands-on for sure.
See, Astro, she's not getting any sleep either.
Okay.
What's that? That word sounds really familiar, but I don't know what that is.
You don't still work a full-time job, do you? Like other
No, I actually, the last time I had a job working for somebody else was in 2007, probably 2007. I actually left my marketing career, which actually took me to Los Angeles. I achieved what I went there to achieve, and I just wasn't happy. It just wasn't for me. And I actually left and went to help one of my advertising clients open up her second store. And that was actually probably my first job with retail. I was always doing office assistant jobs in high school and college. So working retail was my first time at like the age of like, I don't know, 29 or 30. And so I learned a lot through her and her husband. And her husband, the store I helped them open was like a men's clothing store and a vintage home decor store. And that's where I really learned a lot about vintage, and just the passion for vintage was like insane. And then that's when I went on to do my own vintage business. And that was about 2008 when I went into I opened up my own little small company selling vintage. So it's been quite some time since I've had a quote unquote real job. I'm a starving young artist. I would rather be happy than have money.
Right.
Now, Shelly and I, we're going crazy because we both work full-time jobs, and then we do Find a Fashion Truck, and then we still have our own individual side that are like, and this is like, where are the hours in the day going? Like
Yeah, well, I think you guys just need to ditch those full-time gigs and make what you're doing your full-time gig. It's a process, but I think that's how a lot of people get started, and that's smart. It's a smart way to do it, because you can't sacrifice your entire lifestyle, especially us older ones. We're used to living a certain lifestyle, and that's hard to give up. And I think it's fair to say that a large majority of fashion truck owners and mobile boutique owners, they start off like that, to where they're working full time, and then they run their business in all the free time they could possibly find. And a lot of times they get to go quit that full time job. It's super rewarding for them. Other people like working part time. It's just their thing to do on their weekends and their evenings. And I think that's what's really ideal about owning a mobile boutique or a mobile business, is that you can set your hours. You still have overhead, but you don't have that brick and mortar overhead that makes you have to be open 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, something like that. So it is a little bit more flexible. So I think it's safe to say that a large majority of people in our retail, in our industry, that's how they start, start somewhere.
Yeah. And then question for you, and not to get into your numbers, but just in general with like all the fashion trucks you've seen and you've worked on, like a couple of things people always want to know. are one, kind of, is it after year 2 or 3 that you actually start turning a profit where you have extra money? And then 2, like on average, just in general, like as a fashion truck owner, like what's the range of like what you could make, maybe possibly on a yearly basis? And you may or may not know those numbers, but just
I
curious.
think that's kind of impossible to answer, though.
But just in a general. Yeah.
You're both right. There are some general answers, and it's true. It's very tough to answer because so many things have to be factored in. What's your price point? How much are you buying in at? What's your profit loss? All of those things definitely have to be taken into account. But I do think it's safe to say that you can turn a profit within your first year. And ways to do that is don't spend a gajillion dollars on vendor fees. Set yourself a budget, set budgets for everything that you're doing, set a buying budget, set a budget for vendor fees, maybe allow a higher budget for vendor fees in the summer and the spring, because that's when all the events are happening and during the holidays, and then take it down in those off seasons. So balancing that out, I think will definitely help. So we had our first profitable month in month 6 of being in business. Don't quote me. Jeanine would be able to answer that properly, but I'm almost positive that's the case. And I think it's safe to say if you're doing this fairly consistently, let's say consistent being about 3 to 4 days out of the week, I think it's fair to say that you can bring in $50,000 in your first year in revenue. That doesn't mean that's in profit, but you could bring in $50,000 in revenue, and from there you can just keep going up. So I would say that if most people can walk out doing this, they can walk out from their first year having made about $50,000.
And what I find interesting with that, and I was just kind of asking like a ballpark, because I know some people make 20 and some people make 100,000.
Right.
And I think it's like location factors in that too. But then also like if you have other things besides the fashion truck, like for example, an online store,
Right. Absolutely.
Or if you decide to open up a brick and mortar. And so then you just continue to make money in different places in your business. But I just would at least wanted people maybe just to get a sense like you can like survive and live off of this, like even if maybe 30,000 that first year is going back into the business, that next year you might be able to keep more of those profits.
Exactly.
And continue to go up.
Yeah. Exactly. We definitely were not having to go out of pocket after about 3 months in business. So we were able, the company after about 3 months was self-sufficient, which was really nice. We were able to roll the money back into the company versus pulling out of our own pockets. But yeah, I think it's definitely safe to say that you can make well over $100,000 a year easily. And like you say, having all those other outlets online, a brick and mortar, a pop-up shop, all those different avenues will definitely bring in more.
And then what advice do you have for like future mobile boutique owners?
Well, I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure that I gave good advice. So I took the time out to write down some notes. I think it's really important that first and foremost, people make sure that mobile is right for them. It looks fun from the outside looking in, and it is fun. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It's fun going into different neighborhoods, meeting different people. But it's a lot of work and there's a lot of labor that goes into it. And mobile just isn't for everybody, and that's okay. If you like the day in, day out to be completely standard, you're a very routine type of person, you're going to go insane within like 5 minutes. Like you're just going to go nuts because it's just so up and down, hot and cold. And that can be challenging for people. So first and foremost, make sure that mobile is right for you. Then I would also say make sure you understand what you can and cannot do under the rules and regulations set forth through the city or cities that you want to operate in, because that's going to truly determine how you can operate your business. We did it backwards. We were like, get the truck, do it all, la, la, la. Oh, wait, hold on. What can we and can we not do? And that changed everything for us. So knowing those things first and foremost is super important, because that's going to help you determine how you're going to operate your business. I also always tell people, just be flexible, be open to change. Don't be so married to an idea. And the more flexible you can be, the easier this will be for you. I also always suggest to people, even though we are small business owners, maybe we're one female girl working a truck, or we're two girls, two friends going together into business, or whatever that case may be. Still be professional. You're a small business owner. Have pride of being a small business owner, and practice good business ethics at all times. That includes proper business ethics when you're out on the road. If you are selling on public streets, be considerate of the brick and mortar that you're pulling up in front of. They're there first. They can make or break your existence, and by being conscientious about them is super important. And it's just good business practice. So I definitely suggest to people to have, a good code of ethics that they run by. Definitely learn how to drive your truck. Even if you don't intend to be the full-time driver, you need to know how it runs, how it works, how it handles. I always say that not knowing how to drive your truck, to me, is like not having the keys to my brick and mortar store. Like it goes hand in hand. Again, you might not be the only driver, or you may not want to drive it at all, but you have to know how to drive it. And also, when you're writing your business plan, go big. You can start small, but go big. You want to have 10 sales clerks, put that in your business plan. You want to have 50 trucks, put that in your business plan. That doesn't mean you have to do it all when you first open, but that's what you're going to strive to. So by thinking big, even in the small times, that's how you get big, not by thinking small. Don't be afraid to go big. Like, it's your dream as big as you want, and just do it. That would be the advice that I would tell others that want to go into the business model or are going into it.
And, touching on the first piece of advice that you gave about making sure that mobile retail is for you, that is really key. I've seen so many truck owners trying to sell their business because they didn't realize how much work it was going to be.
Right. Unfortunately, a large majority of trucks open and close within 6 months. And I think it's because of that. They don't get that. I go from leaving my house looking like a girl, from coming home looking like a truck driver. I've got black underneath my fingernails. I have to wash my hands 10 times until the water runs clean. I've got makeup smeared all over my face and nobody told me. I've got black marks on my legs that I have no idea came from. I'm pulling generators. I'm pouring gasoline. If that stuff's not for you, this isn't for you, because it just comes with the territory. No matter how pretty you've decorated your truck, how pretty everything looks, there's that labor intense side of things that are required. And again, maybe you're not going to be the person doing that all the time, but you will in the beginning, more than likely. And you have to know those things, because one day your sales clerk or whoever handles those things for you, they're going to call in sick. It's just going to happen. Right. They're not going to be available, and you have to do that. So I think that's a lot of times what happens. And it's challenging, you're constantly moving. That's a challenge in itself. So that alone can drive people up the wall. I've had people tell me they're closing because they just couldn't handle that up and down, back and forth, changing locations all the time. It was just too much for them. So those people would be better off in a pop-up shop, or a brick and mortar space, a permanent brick and mortar space. Trucks doing the vendor life it's challenging, it's tough.
So we have a few questions for you that are totally unrelated to mobile boutiques, but this will help the audience get to know you a little bit better.
Okay. I'm okay. I'm a little scared, but okay.
Do you have a favorite podcast or blog? And if so, what is it?
Sad to say, I do not. I asked me that question 4 years ago, and I probably would have, but I'm so busy working all the time that when I'm not working, I'm probably just sitting on the couch, with my eyes closed, with my eyes open, but sleeping. So, unfortunately, I suck at that answer, and I have to say I don't have one.
Yeah, no worries. Now, are you a book person?
Somewhat. I used to be way more so. Yeah. Not so much anymore. Those fun days are over.
Right.
You know what I do enjoy doing a lot of? I enjoy going outdoors. That's kind of where I find my balance between all the craziness. I really like retreating into the mountains. I've gotten into mountain biking recently. I love going on hikes. I really enjoy being outdoors and clean, fresh air that allows me to just like clear my mind. So if I'm not working, chances are I'm escaping to the mountains.
And I was going to ask too, what do you like to do in your free time to wind down and de-stress from work? Would that be
I would say doing that. I also like doing like silly little crafts and things like that. I like painting. I do some stuff. I do some painting. I do a little bit of, lately I've gotten into these like macrame wall hangings. I know I probably sound like an 80-year-old grandma right now.
I
But
those.
Yeah,
aren't those awesome? I love them. They're the
Yeah.
best. And they're so
You should check out my
therapeutic.
Etsy shop.
I
Yeah.
will. I noticed that you had one. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah.
I enjoy like working with my hands, I guess is safe to say. I'm a Gemini, so I guess it goes with the territory. But yeah, I find comfort and peace in that. I have 3 fur babies, so I enjoy spending time with them, playing. We have our play session. I enjoy spending time with my family. I'm not always physically close to them, so the times that I do get to spend with my family, I really value that time. I love eating. It's like the best thing ever. So Jeanine and I go try all these different restaurants that are popping up in downtown. That's definitely a favorite pastime. So yeah, I guess, I'm 38 years old, so I'm winding down in my old age.
Speaking of eating, like Nishay was talking about me the other day because, like, okay, are you a bacon lover?
Who isn't?
Okay, thank you. Okay.
I'm bacon too.
I saw on, there was this video on Facebook. It was from some food blogger type thing, but it was a bacon wrapped grilled cheese sandwich.
Oh my God.
So it looked really good in the video. So I was like, let me try this. Stacey, it was delicious.
I would
Stacey,
imagine.
We made a pact, Stacey, to start eating healthy. And she broke that pact.
Well, okay, so I had an old Pilates instructor that would tell me when you have a craving, you got to go for it. Otherwise, your mind gets fixed on this craving and it's just going to eat away at you and then you're going to go insane. So she's like, if you want to order a pizza and eat it all for breakfast, then do that. And then you're not going to do that for a while. So I say like follow those cravings and then
The only problem is that she has a different craving every day.
I have a massive sweet tooth. My downfall is a big old sweet tooth. I know how that goes. I was eating chocolate cake at like 11:30 last night, and it was really bad, but it was really good.
So, if you could have any celebrity, entertainer, model, athlete, anybody in the world visit your mobile boutique, who would it be?
Oh, geez. Alive or dead?
Yes.
Like anyone? I'm gonna go with my boy Jimi Hendrix. I think we could do a really awesome show inside of La Fashion Truck with Jimi Hendrix there. I'm a huge Hendrix fan, so I would definitely have him. That's who I would pick.
Now, I've seen a few people have this on their Instagram account. Have you ever partnered with musicians and had them like play outside of your truck?
Yeah, we've done certain collaborations like that to where like we did a holiday lot just this past Christmas and we had live local musicians come in and it was really cool. And there was about 5 different acts per day that came over. So we've definitely done that.
And then before we get to the final question of the night, Android or iPhone, and what's your favorite app?
I would have to say iPhone only because I've never used an Android. So I'm an iPhone user. My favorite app, trying to think, I guess my favorite app would be something I use the most, right?
Yeah.
God, but it's so I use apps mostly for business.
Right.
I guess it would have to be Instagram. I kind of am really digging Periscope.
Yes. Thank you.
Something just so weird about it. Oh, and really fast, I just have to answer the other question about who would be in the truck. 'Cause I have to answer it for Jeanine.
Yes.
I think she would have Diplo. She would have Diplo. Oh my gosh, girl, you need to go Google Diplo. So every time we go to Vegas for Magic, all of us girls get together and we have dinner and we go on our buying trips, and there's up to like 40 of us. And a large majority of us go to watch this guy named Diplo perform. And he's basically like a DJ, and he is awesome. And Jeanine loves him, loves him. She's probably going to kill me for putting her out there like that. But I guarantee you that's who she would have on our truck is Diplo. So yeah, you'll have to look him up. Just look up at his Instagram. Look at his Instagram, and then from there you can hear some of his stuff. He's really, really awesome. He's done a lot of compilations with different really famous musicians as well.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, if anybody out there knows Diplo, if he happens to be in LA, just have him stop by La Fashion Truck.
Yes, exactly. Jeanine will give him free hugs and kisses. So I guess
I just looked him up on Instagram. He's kind of cute.
He is, right? Pretty fly for a white guy. No, I was kidding. No, he's really cool. His stuff's really awesome. He's just this really awesome DJ. And he's just, it's too much fun going to his gigs. It's just way too much fun. So Jeanine's become this huge EDM fan, and she never really even knew she was into it until her first Diplo show. So to answer your other question about favorite app, I think I would have to go with Periscope.
I love the potential of Periscope. Like, I've only used it probably about like a handful of times, but I don't know. I just think it's something exciting. And then normally I don't follow celebrities too much, but like on Periscope, I follow like Tyra Banks and Oprah. And so every time I get a ping, like, Oprah's live, I'm like, oh, what's Oprah doing?
Like at this exact moment in time. That's what's super fun about it. It's like, what Oprah is looking at right then and there.
Right now.
Yeah,
like she
that's
had,
pretty
like
awesome.
A chef at her house, and I'm like looking all in the background. I'm like, oh, so that's Oprah's background. Wow, I could tell that's a mansion.
I love it. It's true though. You see things that through people's eyes that you wouldn't typically see, and I just think that's really neat. It's an interesting story, really fast about Periscope. See, I told you, ladies, I can't stop talking. I recently met with a college campus in California because they have integrated mobile retail into their curriculum, and they want to work with the association on a few different things. And so I went and I met them on campus, and we started talking about Periscope. And she says that the students, the millennials, hate Periscope, and their biggest concern with it is that somebody is going to flash them.
Really?
Right? That thought never, ever once came to my mind at all, ever. And so that's why they don't like it, is because they're afraid that somebody will flash them. Isn't that hilarious?
That is so bizarre. That is so bizarre.
I'm like, maybe you guys are the dirty ones that we have to look out for, because we never thought about that, but you did.
Right.
So who's going to flash who in this scenario is what I want to know. Oh, and Snapchat. I recently got onto Snapchat, and I think it's ridiculously fun. I tend to not get on a lot of applications just because I am, I'm pushing 40, and I stay relevant to my age, but Snapchat's super fun. I'm like, all my younger cousins are on it, and we send each other really random things, and I'm really enjoying that. So Snapchat and Periscope. I like this whole live thing. I'm really enjoying that, like this instant, and it's here today, gone tomorrow kind of a thing. I like that.
All right, so we're coming up on our final question.
Okay.
What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?
Well, let's see. That's a tough one, because there's like a million things. Can it be anything? Like
anything? Okay. Like
anything.
So, one of our guests a couple months ago, we asked him this, and he said if he couldn't fail, he would buy a lottery ticket, because that.
I love it.
He could win. If he bought a lottery ticket, he would win.
That's a really good one.
So it could be anything random. Doesn't matter.
I would love to fly. I would love to have a bird's eye view.
Really?
That's what I would love to do. There's something so, and I've never been into birds until recently, but there's just something so amazing about their ability to walk on land and fly in the air. And they have such an advantage that none of us, no other mammal or animal on Earth has. And I admire that. So if I could get up there and flap my arms and fly, I would do it 100%. Absolutely.
Hey, with all these little inventions and everything else, who knows? Somebody will create some little wings that you could put on your arms.
I'll take my first flight off of La Fashion Truck.
Exactly.
So that way I don't have, in case I do fail, I don't have very far to fall.
Exactly.
What would you ladies do if you could do anything and not fail? That's what I want to know.
Oh. She turned it around on us.
Oh, you weren't supposed to do that.
You're committed now. You're in it.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Quit my job.
Okay, that's awesome. I think that's huge.
I don't want to be homeless. So, if I could quit my job and everything go like smoothly, like the way it's supposed to, then that would be awesome sauce.
Nice. Yeah. I like that.
I think mine would be like, I've always had a dream of coming up with an invention, being on Shark Tank, living off the revenue, because it's totally passive income. You can make money while you sleep, and having like a beach house, traveling all over the world by creating this like crazy invention that makes millions of dollars a year. Like that would be amazing.
You forgot your boat.
Oh, and the boat. Yes.
Well, you mean a yacht, right?
I mean, let's go for the yacht.
We're going big. Yeah.
No, and then, of course, from Shark Tank, I would want to work with Barbara. So Barbara, if you're out there, look me up. Because she's like the nicest one.
Elaborate what if plan.
Right. She's got it all planned out, really, it sounds like.
Right.
She might be working on things you don't know about. I don't know.
I'll be like, well, that show's been real. Fashion community, love you.
Oh, that's great.
All right. Let's tell the listeners where they can find you.
You can find us online. Our website is lafashiontruck.com. On there, we post all of our upcoming events, the schedule of where the truck will be. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, Snapchat, and our handle is lafashiontruck. And I think that's all of the avenues where to find us. There's probably more, but I might be forgetting. But yeah, we're pretty easy to find. We're just La Fashion Truck.
Do you have any big events coming up soon, like in the next couple weeks?
We have. I wonder if we do. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. We do have this really fun event that we do every year. This will be our third or fourth year. We go to the Geffen Playhouse, who does plays, and it's a really great venue. And we do this really fun ladies' night, and we usually are there with a couple of other retail trucks. So that's coming up on June 25th, and it's a really fun event if you're in the LA area. We have another shop lot coming up in July, and that's where a bunch of us trucks get together in the LA area and do this really fun just shopping event. So we'll be in Venice Beach, and there'll be about 8 of us at that event, and that's coming up July. I don't know, in the middle of July. We should be promoting that soon. I think that's it right now as far as like bigger events that I could think of. Yeah, we have a few fun things in the works, but nothing huge and extravagant at this point.
Yeah, and all the listeners out there, I would say definitely check out the American Mobile Retail Association. You can Google, or you could go just to American Mobile Retail Association.blogspot.com.
Or you can go to AmericanMRA.com too. That's
can you? Oh,
yeah. And for those that are looking to go into the business model, through the association, we're working with an economic development center in Los Angeles, and we're putting on the 2nd annual Retail Expo. And it's a really great place to come and find out all the information you need to start a truck, all the rules and laws that you need to know. The Economic Development Center can actually help you write your business plan for free. So it's a really, really fun event. We're going to have some retail trucks on display so people can walk through them and see the different types of product that you can sell, as well as the different setups that you can do inside. So I think that's a really great event. We had people come as far as Arizona last year. So it's a really, really helpful, informative, free event to anyone that wants to come.
No, that's perfect. And, even though this is backtracking a little bit, but I know everybody would be upset because we ask every owner this, because this seems like to be the number one question. Do you have a favorite point of sale system?
I've worked with a couple of different ones. Right now, we're using Vend, and I actually really like Vend. I find it to be super easy to use. I'm a reports kind of person. I want to see a report in 5 million different ways. So they run really great, like profit loss reports. You can actually see how well you're selling per hour. You can break it out through a location. It's super mobile friendly. They've pretty much designed it for mobile retailers. So right now, that's my favorite POS system. But at the same time, there's so many coming out that are really catering to the mobile business. I think starting off, if you want to use a free service, Square is a fantastic one to use. Once you get up and running in business, though, you're going to want access to more information that your POS system can provide for you. Otherwise, you're going to be number crunching all day, all night. And that's just room for human error as well. So I would say that if you want just like a free POS, Square is a really great starting point. Vend is really popular. I think a lot of people use, is it Shopify?
Yeah.
Is that right? Shopify, I think. But yeah, my favorite is Vend. I like Vend.
No, perfect. I just was like, let me ask that because that's always like the number one question. It's like the number one question in the fashion truck group that we get via email. It's like no one knows like what POS system to use. Yeah.
It's. I think it's all just comes down really to personal preference. And Vend, what's really cool is if you go to their website, which is just vend.com, you can actually do a 30-day free trial. So take advantage of those free trials that these different POS systems have to offer because you can just get in and play around and see which one's going to really work for you without making that commitment. I want to say our fee to use Vend is like $79 for the month. So in the beginning, we didn't have that in our budget. So we just used Square, and then we were able to upgrade to Vend. But yeah, it's a good system. But there's a lot of really great ones coming out too.
Well, I must say, Stacey, I think once this podcast airs, the community is going to eat it up. You've dropped so many great nuggets on the show. We've had like a really good time. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, ladies. I had a good time too. It was nice to finally chat with you guys. And thank you for being such big supporters of the business model and for all that you've done for everybody. And it's nice having that kind of support, it's really cool. So we appreciate you guys for sure. And thanks for having La Fashion Truck on.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care.
All right. Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
It was really great speaking with Stacey. Maybe we can have her on again and have her partner Jeanine, because I think that would probably be awesome. Just getting both of their inputs into like their experience and just hearing like all the great advice they have, really, been able to gather over the last 5 years of running their own fashion truck.
Yeah, this was a super cool episode, and I think we met us a new friend, Nisha.
Yeah, no, I love her. I think it's great. I think it's great what they're doing. I think it's awesome that there are more resources, out there for fashion truck owners too, like places you could go for various things. The consulting that they offer, I think is great. The association where it helps you build a network. So, I think that, she's right in saying that, like, with creating that, it kind of legitimizes the business. And it's not like, oh yeah, it's just two girls having fun. It's like, no, this is our bread and butter. This is how we make money just like you,
So I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. We will have more great episodes coming up soon, so stay tuned. We also want to make sure that you guys do us a solid and go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, rate us, and leave a review. We'd really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, on the show notes, please leave comments. We'd love to hear kind of what you thought and learned from this episode. And of course, as always, you can find the show notes at startafashiontruck.com. Just type in La Fashion Truck and the show notes will come right up. We'd love for you to comment and let us know how you like the episode and all the things you've learned. And of course, you could also reach us on any of the social media accounts. Well, not any, but most. And on Instagram and Twitter, we are at FFT_official_. And of course, on Facebook and Pinterest and Google+, you could just type in Find a Fashion Truck and you will get us. And thanks again for listening.
Thanks for parking here.